All right, everybody, we are live. I am back again on a Saturday. This is the third edition of myself and Adam doing this show that we pretty much do when we have new updates to talk about in regards to what's going on with Palantir's government business. Adam's Twitter is in the chat. Highly recommend following him. He is someone who has been obsessing over Palantir's government deals and their patents over the past couple of years now. And in December, we did a podcast around the Titan contract. And we kind of didn't know when it was coming, but we knew it was coming. And then this week on Tuesday, we officially got a $178 million contract for 2 years. Adam, thank you for joining me. Let's get into it. How do you feel about this deal and why do you think we got it?
Well, first off, congrats to everybody that has been holding. I know the stock's been pumping on the Titan news, and congrats to you and the Hobbits AI. Hope that's a successful venture. So congrats. Titan, not to sound like I told you so, but I told you so. I was pretty confident, 100%. There it was. I mean, last time we spoke about Titan potentially in April because of what was going on, but I said it could come anytime between January and March. Obviously, it was earlier March. I think I can speak for the entire community when we're all happy about getting it today versus another week or two from now. So it was good. I was definitely a little bit surprised on the announcement, and not surprised that they won, but just surprised in terms of the other players in their quote unquote, little sphere. So I'm actually just pulling it up real quickly because I know obviously Northrop Anderl was one, and L3 was another. What were the other two companies?
Let me pull it up right now because I have it too.
Because, that was like a big surprise for me. And I'm not surprised to hear that L3 was working on Titan. I'm actually going to circle back to L3 a little bit later when we get deeper into the rabbit hole, because Palantir and L3, they are connected, in a very, not at the joint, at the hip, but they're very, very connected. And now with Titan, obviously, the connection's growing deeper, and we'll get into a deeper, dive of that in a little bit.
We have Northrop, L3, Sierra Nevada Corp, Anduril, Pacific Defense, STC, and WWT.
Right. So, and if you've obviously been following me, the only ones that I've really been harping on were Anduril and Northrop.
Yep.
I had no idea about L3. Again, that doesn't really shock me out of being surprised, if that makes sense. The others definitely did. And this all circles back to it's extremely disjointed but jointed. And you're going to really start to see the disjointedness and the joint come together now. Titan is that connection. It's that first one that's going to bring everything together. And the crossover is ginormous because Titan is technically for the Army, but the Air Force is going to use it. And of course, the Navy is going to use it as well. And the reason why I bring that up is because on the stream in December, I told everybody that there was an exercise going on. And I think it was after the exercise, that's when they would award Titan. That exercise was Project Convergence Capstone 4. Anybody who tuned into my spaces a week ago or whatever, I told a little bit. Capstone 4 is supposed to end, I don't think next week, but the week after. So it's kind of at the tail end in the middle, but it doesn't surprise me that they waited. I think they were just making sure everybody was on board, the warfighters, the allies, obviously Palantir and all of their team. The one question I do have related to Titan, and I think a lot of investors will, and we'll never get the answer, and it's fine, is did Palantir at any time during this, endeavor, did they ever extend the olive branch to Raytheon? That's the only question I really have, just because obviously Raytheon is a major player in the defense industry. They're not going anywhere with or without Titan. They're still here,
right?
But now they're getting nothing. And you can clearly see that. There's all these other names. They're getting squat. So I very curious because that is a very Palantir thing to, in my opinion, on their view, like, hey, we're on the same side. We want to get the same end result. This is about national security and protecting the warfighter. You lost. Just admit it. We'll take the lead, and you can be, the L3. And they probably said no. And then they said, all right, fine, we'll get L3 instead of you. So that's the only question I have related to Titan is, did they ever extend an olive branch? Because if they did, that just makes it, in terms of the software, that much more incredible, because that means they knew they were better and they said, dude, we'll end this right now and we'll give you a bone. They said, give you a nope. And now they got the full pie. So that's my only question related to Titan. But
do you think that you agree with Mariana from Bank of America that them beating Raytheon is a really big deal in terms of how eventually the DoD is going to keep procuring software?
Yes, it was a massive, massive, massive deal. And it's not just big because, quote, I mean, at this point, I think we can call Palantir a prime. Mm-hmm. If not a prime, at least the software prime. And no one else can be called software prime. They could be called prime, but they can't be called software prime. This was huge because it's going to not necessarily open up revenue streams. It will, because they're going to be connected to a bunch of crap that they can say, hey, we're already doing this for you. Give us a shot over here. But it's a huge deal because, and I did tweet about this, Titan is, quote, theirs. It is their product that they can say 100% is, quote unquote, Palantir's. It's a hardware defined product from an outsider. If you look at Titan, to the average person that knows nothing about Palantir in the military or whatever, you just think it's another vehicle driving along the battlefield, or it's like a souped up Jeep, whatever you might be. It's huge because the average moron, that I'm going to name drop a few, like fucking Dick Stupid Chicken Genius, is, they're in the defense and government base. You've been following it. So don't pull your bullshit and clicks to get your crap growing. And then this goes back to the Wall Street analysts who are just as dumb. They couldn't see the product. Now they actually have something they can see. Yes, it's a vehicle. It's not really what they do. Hardware, vehicles, automotive. It's not that. But you can point to it and you can say to anybody, you can't see it in my coffee cup. This is Palantir's, product. They develop this, they manufacture it, and that's going to be able to help them grow, and people are going to understand it a little better. So it is a huge deal because it's something tangible that everybody in the world can see. But in terms of the government and the military, it's going to be so important because the United States military alone, forget United Kingdom and Spain and whatever, there's less people joining the armed forces, which is, a double-edged sword. The world's getting better. People don't need to fight, or people are scared and I can make a bunch of money doing this. I don't want to, get my head blown off. Totally understandable in both ways. So they're going to need cutting edge tech, the most advanced stuff out there, because they're not going to have necessarily the bodies to go up against a China who has 1 billion people.
Right.
So they have to be so much better technologically to spare. And I've said this before when I've been on here, how much does a life cost? Now you're talking about an American life, a human life, where instead of having an extra 5 million soldiers in reserve, you have 500,000. How much more valuable is that life now? It's not as replaceable. And the Ukrainians, they're starting to really see it, because Russia, they can keep throwing, cannon fodder at them for another couple years. But eventually you run out of fighting men. And when you run out of fighting men, I think you know what happens. So they're using this tech, and this tech is going to be what catapults them and maintain their advantage across any of our adversaries, because, we might be outnumbered in terms of number of forces with China and whatnot, but we're not outnumbered in the tech race,
Right.
in cutting edge software, in hardware. That's our advantage. And as Karp has said, heroism plus advanced software, whatever it is, can slay the giant. And this is what they're out to do. So it is a huge, huge deal because it's really their first big one and it's not over yet. So this is what everyone needs to understand really about Titan. And there's really, unfortunately, not much more info to go on. We have a lot of it out now. I know Grim actually tweeted this morning that they are looking for Titan engineers. So they are ramping up specifically for Titan. But the main thing is, and I'm going to pull some Titan info, is this is another 2-year phase.
Right. So this, we thought it was a $1.5 billion 5-year contract. This is a 2-year phase, and it's a phase. What exactly is a phase, and what does that mean in terms of future phases?
So that's really, we're going to start segueing in my little roadmap mind of how I thought we would do this today. So this phase is going to go on for 2 years. It may be 18 months. It may be 19 months. It might be 22 months. I don't know. You know how the government is. We were supposed to get Titan in December. We didn't get it to March. Anything can go. So we're supposed to do this next phase for 2 years. And as you obviously saw in the press release, they're producing 10 prototypes. There's 5 of the basic, which is purely Palantir Anduril. And then there's 5 of the space, which is Palantir with Northrop plus everybody else. And that goes back to our lovely space conversation from a few months ago, which is why I said we had to win Titan to get all the space stuff, which.
Right.
So now that they are delivering those prototypes, we can't take 178 million as the quote unquote, that's what it's going to be in 2 years. Because they might develop these, products. It might cost them $8 million and they'll charge the DoD, 11 million instead of 16. I don't know. So a lot of the prototype now that you see, just to take it on a, basic level, I forgot where the article is. If someone can send it to me, I'm sure someone can find it. But they said end goal of Titan. And if you remember, when I spoke about this last time, was how many Titans does Uncle Sam want? Is it going to be, 1,000 Titans, or is it? So they said in this article, and it came out on the Titan release, so it's literally, a day or two. They said the end goal would probably be between 100 and 150 Titans. Okay? Just go on the high end, 150 Titans. Do the math. They spent 178 million on 10. That's 18 million a Titan. Do 18 times 200 times 150. You're at $2 billion. So there you go.
That's a lot.
And guess what? They may order 200 Titans. They may order 300 Titans. Maybe the final product cost them 20 million. Might cost them more. Who knows? But if we're just going off the basic number that we were just given, that is a lot of zeros, and it's just the beginning. So the next 2 years, they're going to have to prove to the DoD, they're going to have to meet several endpoints, which, in my honest opinion, they will meet and succeed, of course. And then in 2027, after 2026, if everything goes perfect, they should be awarded a quote unquote final Titan, and that will have, everything, everything right there will be, there will be no more guessing. We'll know exactly, the DoD is going to spend $1 million for 150 Titans, and, that's the answer. And
so Titan is not just one thing. Titan is a multiple. There's multiple phases of Titan, and the government can order as many as they want for a variety of different things in the entire JATC2 complex. And that's why this thing can keep going.
Correct. So like I've said before is, and I still stand by this, even though we've never had any quote unquote 100% confirmation, but we've had enough confirmation that it's confirmed, is Titan is already on the battlefield, and it might not be like in a live battlefield like Ukraine right now, or, Israel. I definitely don't think in Israel in the Middle East, just because of how dense that area is, and it takes one missile and a group has Titan. It's they don't want that. Ukraine, the battlefield's a little bit bigger. They can station it. I am convinced. But and now we're going to start to do a little bit of our segue. But with Titan, and this is the main thing, and I'm just pulling it up real quickly.
Thank you everyone for being here in the chat. All 300 of you on a Saturday morning talking about Palantir.
So
why this community is so great. Go
ahead. So with Titan, it's under I know I sound like a broken record, the Program Executive Office of Intelligence, Electronic Warfare, and Sensors, our favorite office. But in that office, there's many little divisions. And in the division, it's the Intelligence System and Analytics Division. That is where Titan falls. So just to understand where exactly their timeline is, and trust me, they ain't following this to a degree. So fiscal year 24, a selected contract award for prototype maturation phase, additional soldier touch points, first unit issue for Titan Advanced. So that's fiscal year 24. That's what we're in now, and that's what we're doing. Fiscal year type, the first unit of issue of Titan Basic, so not the space one, multiple soldier touch points, multiple prototype issuance in advanced and basic. Okay, so somewhere in 25, they'll be the advanced one. Test and demo events to inform transition out of the maturation phase to get from prototype to a final. Fiscal year 26, they issue the final prototype, they complete all the programs and test, and then they configure the final product at the end of 2026, 2027. So that's the 2 years that we're looking at. And those 2 years is what lines up perfectly with Project Lynchpin, which we'll go to a second. So that's really Titan. It's going to be 2 years of more exercises and trainings and videos and blah, blah, blah. And we'll get updates along the way from Palantir, I'm sure. And between myself and everybody, we'll find the updates ourselves. I'm not worried. But it is now we just wait and see and how they develop it. And like I said, Grim, they're starting to hire specifically for Titan. And with Lynchpin is I pulled up everything last night, so I didn't have to spend time looking for it. Is Lynchpin is connected to Titan because it's all about sensors,
right?
And with Lynchpin, and if you follow me and you've heard me speak about him before, but Bharat Patel, who was the product lead for the original ground station that Palantir won, that was the first, get to Titan. This was in 2021. This was 821 million. That was led by Bharat Patel. Bharat Patel is overseeing and leading Project Lynchpin. So, and he was at the AI symposium 2 or 3 weeks ago with Sean. So they're very, lockstep, these, Bharat and the Palantir team. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with quote unquote just Lynchpin, because Lynchpin technically already awarded its first vendor, believe it or not, in October. Very, very small. It was like a $2 million, award to Bose Allen Hamilton and Red Hat. So, connected to Palantir. So, right. With Titan, it's going to be more related to the sensors and everything. Now, we're probably going to see more Lynchpin info than Titan info, just because that's probably where I'm going to be digging up, to be honest, because right now, Titan, it's just sitting somewhere and they're testing it. And trust me, they're not putting any updates out there till they're ready to. But with Lynchpin, there's going to be that part needs to start going now, which I already believe has already been in the motion for a couple months, because they knew it was going to be Palantir. And I'm pretty sure, and the Palantir team, especially Sham and Karp, they're not ones to sit on their ass and wait. They're like, just keep going.
So we haven't gotten any contracts that relate to Project Lynchpin yet, correct?
Zero. None.
Okay, and what do you think the monetary value of those are? Are those hundreds of millions as well?
I'm going to assume it's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars as well, because it's all related to connecting sensors to Titan. So okay. That is really where it all the fun starts is with Lynchpin, because the main thing that people need to understand with Titan is Titan is kind of like a mix of like an offensive and a defensive weapon. Not, I wouldn't even call it a weapon because it's not. It's more of an offensive and defensive tool.
Right.
So they can sit in Titan and they can say, do we want to go on the attack or do we want to see what happens? So the Army and the military overall, they deliver certain weapons and vehicles specifically for different, missions. Some planes don't go, on bombing payloads. Some planes only do transportation. So it's really, really interesting to see, what are they going to do as it relates to all of this stuff for Lynchpin? Because technically, if you're a B-17 and you're flying overhead in, in Ukraine, that info needs to be fed to Titan, and a B-17 is meant to really be offensive, but you're doing, so that's why it's all jointed, because Lynchpin, and if you actually go to the definition, if I'm not stupid, like Lynchpin, like the definition is basically to bring stuff together, like pin it together, or like something. It's like it's a linchpin. It's a major portion. It's a vital thing within the enterprise. Like it's something that is, if it goes down, the enterprise fails. It's a linchpin. Right. So and now we're starting to see it, what the Army of 2030 is. So if you go back to that 10 million that they won a day or two before, which is another prototype, the electromagnetic battle management tool. Now they're sitting there saying, okay, we're going to be in a bunker somewhere, and we're going to have all these satellites and these planes and these drones overhead, and we want to see what's out there. So Titan is going to be connected to sensors, okay? But this situation, it's going to be with electromagnetic management battle tool, not connected to sensors, but it's connecting to signals. And they're different. So sensors are something that's already, they make it, it's a piece of hardware, it's on the plane, it's on the vehicle, and it's being fed into Palantir's sensor intelligence platform. Whereas a radio signal, for example, it's an enemy that was told, do not bring your iPhone and call your mother. You will be dead if you make that phone call. And you're seeing it all over, and you see it in Israel, Gaza, you see it in Russia, Ukraine, and you're hearing those intercepts, and they're making phone calls, or they're doing what they need to do with technology that either should not be on the battlefield, they're sneaking in, or they don't understand that we are so advanced we're picking up on it. So electromagnetic battle management tool is going to be picking up all these little signals. And in Chime's interview, I think it was, the gentleman's name was Jason. It was the one they spoke for like 66 minutes. He has some big, I think his name was Jason. Really interesting, interview. And it was very defensive and military, obviously. And he talked about this for a little bit. So Titan, to put this all in perspective, to see this is the pie. This is the crust. They're finished. They're doing the crust right now. You're going to be on a battlefield on the outskirts in Titan. And, like I said, they're ordering 150. So I don't know how much that quote unquote space that covers. Is that 500 miles? Is it 1,000 miles? I have no idea. This is why they have to order all these Titans, because clearly there's a range limit. Right. And if you're in Germany fighting someone in Russia, I'm assuming a Titan in Germany isn't going to pick up the info in the middle of the forest in Ukraine right now. They have to bring it closer. So there has to be some limits to this, which we'll find out over time. But you're in Titan and you're watching the battlefield, you're seeing all the sensors, you're seeing, okay, we have joint light vehicles over here, we have 7 squadrons over here, and we see from overhead, just through meta constellation, that the enemy is, 500 yards by this river or whatever it might be. With the battle management tool is and I could be wrong on this, is my understanding is any soldier take their Sky Kit out or whatever, computer, whatever they're given, they can go onto it and they can, access this electromagnetic management tool, and they can see the surrounding terrestrial layer of their surroundings, and they can see, okay, we have allies stationed, a quarter mile this way, and it's all picking up signals. So now you're starting to really see, okay, so now they're picking up sensors, now they're picking up signals. They're very, very similar, but they're very, very different, which is what I said before. They make certain planes for precision bombing, and they make certain planes for long range, transportation needs, whatever it might be. So they're developing all these products right now in front of our eyes, and they're still prototypes. So the DISA one, the battle management tool, that was a 1 year, I think it was like $10 million. Well, what's going to happen in 12 months if it succeeds? Maybe it becomes 3-5 years and it's $800 million. Like, that's what they're going for. And some people, they might be sitting here and be like, well, that's not a lot. Lockheed gets like $15 billion for an F-15. Yes, you're right. They do. But an F-15 also cost them like $30 million. So they're coming out net negative.
Right.
And with Palantir is their whole thesis, and this is, you cannot argue this, is we want to deliver the best products for the warfighter, for our national security, at a fraction of the cost. The whole point is to do the best job for as little money as possible, to save the dollar for the taxpayer. So now you're starting to see it. So like some people like, oh my God, I thought Titan A, there's still another phase to do. But after we do that phase, you saw it. They order 150 of these. It's $2 billion. Is it 15 billion? No. But that's one product. And now they'll have the battle management tool. That will be another product. And just with these signals, I just want everyone to understand how big, signals is, because it's so different than sensors. Just, I want to read this one little, paragraph from this article that came out in December of 23. So it's all relatively new. And this is something that they're trying to do for fiscal 25. It's the theater level signal intelligence, called TSIG. So if you're going to see that a lot, is give me 1 second.
Thank you, everybody, for being here again. We are discussing all the intricacies of Titan and the future government contracts we will get later. John, your comment's hilarious. Yeah, everyone, please make sure to sign up for hobbits.ai. Launch the custom LLM for Palantir as well. John just found a funny bug inside of it.
So,
all right, go ahead.
So, they're developing these different, products, if you will. And one of them is called this capability spectral situational awareness system, which will start in fiscal year 25. And it's envisioned to be a off-the-shelf commercial product that will provide sensing and visualization of what Army units will look like on the electromagnetic spectrum. Do I have to fucking spell Palantir in there? Yeah.
So what is I think this goes hand in hand with, we got a $9.8 million contract last Friday, and that was for electromagnetic something. Is that kind of intertwined in this?
This is the crust being made. So the electromagnetic battle management tool, like I said, it's a prototype. They still have to flush it out, and they could fail. It could happen. Doubt it. But they are going to develop this product, and that is going to be deployed to the warfighter, and they're going to be able to see all of these signals that are coming off the battlefield. So if you are a Ukrainian and you are thinking about advancing, you can pull up your Sky Kit, you can go on, and you can say, whoa, wait, we see a squadron of the enemy because we see that they just used, a radio frequency, anything. They're able to pick up all these signals. and they're going to be able to, map it out and see exactly where they are. So all of this stuff is coming together because signals don't mean sensors and sensors don't mean signals. So that's why they had to build both, and they're all going to be coming into Palantir. So the single glass pane is Palantir.
And that contract, again, is to help them be able to build the infrastructure. It's not like a full-on battle management software. It's a prototype for eventually when they have to really get deeper into electromagnetic warfare, which is the Project Brown Heron stuff, then they're ready and built, and at least they have some contracts to start that off.
Potentially. I mean, you never know what could happen in a year or two when it comes to military infrastructure. I mean, on the last earnings, we all got a nice surprise with Mission Manager, and that was really cool. So that makes me think it is that, of course. They're not going to come out and say, hey, guys, Mission Manager is building everything in the military. We got to just kind of speculate and place our bet. But that's really, the main thing for Titan and Signals and this new DISA contract. But what's more impressive than Titan, if you had to take a guess, from a basic military standpoint? What's something that you can do every day, but the military can't?
Something I can do every day in my day-to-day life that the military can't.
That's correct. And Palantir has already showed us that they're doing it, and they solved the issue, by the way. So you already know the answer. Just that's my clue.
I could do a lot of things every day that the military can't, I would imagine.
That's correct.
I don't know. What's the answer?
Simple FaceTime.
Ah.
And you know how I know we already have the answer? Because they showed us already. And now, everybody, change your pants. Because what I am about to show everybody, or I guess not show, but talk about, is Titan on wheels. Get ready. I posted this the other day, but the pie is so large that the crust is going to involve all these things we just spoke about today. The DISA, the Titan, the Signals. But now, welcome everybody to Command Post Integrated Infrastructure, CPI-2. CPI-2 is going to be, quote, the next Titan thing for Palantir, in my opinion. And the crazy part about it is they already won it. So it's just a matter of when it becomes a more mainstream, they get paid. They already won it. It's already done. Signed, sealed, delivered. Get C3I. Get the fuck out of my goddamn Department of Defense. Just get the fuck out. Command Post Integrated Infrastructure. This is one of our soon-to-be other new favorite offices. Instead of intelligence, electronic warfare, and sensors, this one comes from command, control, and communications. I wonder who does a lot of command, control, and communications. Palantir. So this right here is exactly what you need to look at. But from a very basic standpoint, it's not revolutionary. Because I just told you, you FaceTime every day. The military can use FaceTime, but they have to do it in the most harsh conditions at any given moment, and they must do it securely.
Right.
And that is what makes it very difficult, is how do we do it in the middle of a sandstorm in Kuwait at 3 a.m, and how do we make sure that the enemy does not intercept our communications? It is a massive problem that Palantir just solved. And it's our good friend, David Mara. So if you actually, if I were you, I would just scroll up just so everybody can see it, just to give an idea. So So this is not anything crazy if you're looking at it, but it's basically a Titan on wheels. And the reason why it's so important and such a massive, I'm going to use the word innovation, even though it's so not innovative in 2024, is because if you're getting shot at or an enemy sees you and they're going to throw a Hellfire missile at you, guess what? You're leaving your command post. You're not going to stay there and die.
Nope.
So what do they needed to do? They needed to create a command post that they can make mobile. And yes, Titan can move on the battlefield, but it's not a true hardcore command post because it's got a different set. Titan is meant to connect to sensors and feed those sensors to the operator who can then, dispose that information to who they think is necessary. With the CPI-2, and if you scroll all the way down,
these three.
Yep, if you scroll all the way, if you go to capabilities.
Okay.
I think you're in the, nope, wrong. Go back. Go back to the command post. Yep, now just scroll down.
Oh, these right here, these 3 bullet points. Yeah.
So if you look at those, and I think if you go at the very, very beginning, capability.
Oh, right here. Got you.
CPI-2 leverages improvements in technology to reduce the current command post footprint and improve mobility and agility. Now, before we go any further, do you remember Exercise Brave Partner? We watched it on the stream.
Yes, yeah. That's where we saw the headset, yeah.
There you go. That's your answer.
So
they're in a back of a striker doing what they need to do as a command post. So that's the whole thing. They were in the back of a moving vehicle and they had the headset on and they were able to do what they needed to do and be able to move away from the enemy. The mission command platform, that is the same platform in the video.
And I see too, the headset is integrated in all of this because you have something on your head while you're in a mission critical situation.
Correct. And if you keep reading, it consists of the integration of approved and fielded mission command information systems, government off the shelf, not Palantir, and commercial off the shelf, that's Palantir, that support the operational needs of the corps, blah, 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 blah. The centerpieces of CPI-2, the centerpiece are the mission command platform and the command post support vehicle. If we go back and we watch the Mara video of Exercise Brave Partner, they're in a striker, which is the vehicle, and they're wearing the headset, which is the mission data platform. Mm-hmm. It's the same system. They already solved the problem. It's already solved. So obviously they're working it out on a, quote, grand scale, but it's done. And you can even read, Mission Command Platform provides digitally connected workstations. That is the headset. That is them with putting on the headset, and you saw the scoreboard with the field of battle on one side and information on the other, and you saw the circle with the red dots and the square. That's Maven probably integrated in there. That is command post integrated infrastructure for the software element. That is it. And Palantir is the centerpiece of it.
Right. So your overall point is that means there's a lot more contracts coming down the way. And as Erwin says, he says, look, it might take more time than what we think it's going to be. It might happen in 5 to 10 years. But the fact that we're probably one of the only primes from a software perspective to control that entire operating system, that means that those are billions of dollars waiting for us.
Correct. And Corp has said, and I've said, quoting Corp, they will come and take care of the mission and get paid later. And now that I think the commercial side is really starting to explode, I think Corp and all of them, I think they feel more comfortable on a government defensive side of saying, here's the product, take all the time you need to get it right, give us a little bit of money so we can pay the light bill and, the water cooler, and we'll wait 2-3 years and then you'll give us a big fat contract. And I think that's more likely to happen now. in my honest opinion, because they're growing so much on the commercial and it's explosive and it's quick. And they have a lot of seeds that were planted, Titan being one of them, that are starting to come to fruition, that when they get those awards, that they're not really missing a beat. So they're okay of giving it like that DISA contract. Maybe they said to them, look, you can't pass it. I know nothing's going on. Just give us 10 million for a year. Well, it's probably already done for half. The product's probably almost mastered. And then in 12 months, when you have the budget fully flushed out in fiscal year 25, award us our normal and everyone's happy. That's the way how I would look at it. Of course, I could be completely wrong. I'm sure, the board and us all shareholders are like, no, that's crazy. Give us our money. We want to be paid. But it's bigger than one little contract. It's years and years of billions of dollars they're waiting for. And it's not just one payday. It's going to be over decades of that type of revenue coming from the DoD. And with the CPI-2, as we saw with Brave Partner, if you want to show it again, it can't hurt. They're integrating with the warfighter and the soldier so that they're already in to use and want Palantir before they actually step into real life battle. And this kind of connects to one of our last couple things, is just related to this. And with L3 that I mentioned before is the integrated tactical network. And there's that word integrated again, and tactical that's basically the Net Warrior. And that's where the L3 and the Palantir connection comes in. I've tweeted about it before. I want to say it was maybe September, October of 23, but they teamed up to really master and really innovate the, I want to say, radio telecommunication aspect of Net Warrior, because they were using like really crappy walkie-talkies. And now they have to be more advanced, has to move quicker. So it's really, really interesting. And this integrated tactical network is obviously connected to all the soldiers who will be stationed at a command post integrated infrastructure. So they're going to be connected to Net Warrior at a CPI-2 doing their mission. God forbid an enemy comes and attacks them, they'll get in the striker and they'll drive away. They'll put on the headset. They'll call who they need to. They'll tell them what's going on, and everyone will be okay because they'll already have known it's coming. Right. And more importantly, the military side, you're not going to have any casualties, and you're not going to lose any of the equipment either to enemy hands or in any destruction because it's mobile.
Let me play this video and see what people think.
We're here as part of exercise Brave Partner, where we deployed the tactical command post of the 2nd Cavalry Regiment here to North Macedonia. This technology, TMDP, the Tactical Mission Data Platform, allows us to rapidly scale our command post larger or smaller depending on the mission, and maintain situational awareness for decision makers.
That's striker. That's nice too.
That's Palantir's thing. There you go.
What you saw, that's the striker, and you'll see more of it.
What's been really cool has been getting to see how we operate in theater with in-theater assets while also testing out all this new technology, being able to demonstrate these capabilities to our partners as well. Demonstrate these capabilities to our partners as well.
There you go. There's Palantir.
Yeah. So like there, same data platform. There you go. It's the same thing. That's exactly that was the end goal. They already did it. And, just with my last thing that I want to just talk about related to Gov, and then I want to touch up a little bit on, the commercial. I think we should talk about AIP Con a 100%. Little. It is, and I think Grim tweeted it. No shocker there. But they are the Department of Defense and the military. I forgot what the exact figure was, but they said they were going to spend over the next decade like $178 billion in training simulation. I'm not sure if you saw that. I'm sure you did. I forgot the exact figure, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is, and I tweeted about this about a month ago, is there's these quote unquote there's a whole training segment within the military for anybody. You have to go through these trainings to do. Not like that's a surprise to anybody. But the main thing is, because now everything is such a digital world, it's not so much of like, if you've ever seen Band of Brothers, they're not doing like, yes, they're on the ground, crawling on their hands and knees, doing push-ups, running up the hill at 4 a.m, but they're also doing a lot of quote unquote software engineering nerd stuff, because the reality of the situation is that's what they are out in the battlefield now. They're developers, they're software engineers out there, 99% of the time for most of these guys. So I tweeted this. It's called, there's 3 projects, Trident, Triumph, and Tripoli. And it's all about training the next generation warfighter. And all of it is built on virtual reality. So, they build the actual, battlefield, if you will, for these projects. I forgot exactly which is which. Triumph, I think, is more related towards, cyber. I think one's more related to actually Middle East and like really in the field. But they're going to have all these different training simulation applications, because if you're going to be like that Brave partner we just saw, that was in North Macedonia, I think they said, which I think is in Northern Africa. They're going to, before you get deployed to Africa, let's say you're a soldier and you're getting deployed to, somewhere to fight Somalia, you're going to go through this training simulation. You're going to understand like what the surrounding terrain elements are like. Are you going to be able to feel 95-degree heat and humidity? Probably not, but you're going to get a better understanding of like, okay, there's no trees for cover. There's no buildings, this and that. And that way you have some idea when you enter, your area of interest, you're not a complete stranger. And these training simulations, they're new. The headset stuff, and I started with it, I told you so, and I'm going to continue with it, I told you so. But I fucking told you so many moons ago that they were getting into augmented reality and virtual reality. It was on the patents. It was clear as day. We didn't know if they were going to do the hardware. Clearly, they answered that many moons ago, software only. And we're now starting to see the fruits of that come to life with IC2, the Panasonic, battery one. That was tremendous. So, now people are starting to see it. I think that's really going to be helpful in helping it grow from a, AR, VR side, because when we saw the Microsoft AR, VR about maybe it's 2-3 months ago, it was very, very, very good in a commercial.
Yep.
Anything can look good in a commercial, but we saw, in real time, Panasonic using it for one of their battery machines with a malfunction. And we saw, obviously, I'm sure we didn't see the full process. I'm sure they chipped it down a little bit, but we saw it work in real time, in real life, what it looks like. It was not a commercial. It was something that their partner was proud to say, hey, we used their mixed reality service and built this. And usually what took us, I forgot what she said, a couple days or weeks they figured out the issue in a couple minutes.
Yep.
So, the headset and the AR and the VR, the potential applications are limitless. So from the military side, we're talking about training and simulations for the warfighter, whether you're being stationed to Brazil and you're going to be in the jungles, or if you're going to be in Iraq and in the desert. And then you're going to have, from a commercial standpoint, Panasonic doing this. You're probably going to see, their automotive partners start using it for their.
Well, that was the really interesting thing, because I didn't think mixed reality would be used on the commercial side. But when I saw Panasonic at AIP, I was like, I thought that was only Battlefield. And so that shocked me.
Told you so. So it's, look, in here, and I was the first one to even I was the first one to harp on Maris, saying, where the hell is the VR products? Like, what's going on? And we missed that one. Brave partner. He had to show it to us basically 2 months later. He's like, hey, moron, it's right here. And then now we're starting to see it for a commercial standpoint. But here's the main thing about Palantir for 10, 15, 20 years out. They could have any engineer of theirs go rogue and say, you know what? I fucking hate Debbie over at Tyson Foods. I'm not working on her project today. And they can just build, because they're probably so smart, they could probably build some crazy video game in 10 hours. And now you have a consumer product. So it's potential that the B2C is coming. Is it going to come this year? No. Is it going to come next year? Probably not. Maybe not till another 10 years from now, but it's very possible they do enter a consumer space. But I wouldn't put my eggs in that basket anytime soon, because right now their main thing is getting the military, the Department of Defense, and the United States government as a whole up to date and in a modern, software infrastructure and IT world. And then from a national security commercial standpoint, their whole thesis and ethos, especially with CARP, is we need to protect our biggest enterprises because of how much value they do for our country. And remember when that energy plant got hacked by Russia a few months ago, what happens if our energy pipelines and our critical infrastructure gets hacked and they're offline? They're looking at it as like, all right, they have to use us because we can fight off of these cyber attacks. And Microsoft, they're going through it right now. They've been getting hacked. It's ongoing. And that DISA contract, just to circle back with Microsoft being hacked, it is the first one that I saw explicitly IL6. So I am taking IL6. That is our first quote unquote accredited contract due to our IL6 accreditation. And we got that about 2 years ago. So let that sink in. Like, I don't think we got Titan because we were awarded IL6 2 years ago. I think we got Titan because we're just so better than everybody else. I think we got this electromagnetic battle management tool. 2 reasons why. 1, because we were so much better than everybody else. And 2, because of the IL6 accreditation, because of how of unclassified networks you have to go on to do this stuff. And it only leaves you with 2 other vendors, Amazon or Microsoft. And Microsoft, like I've said, and I own a little bit of Microsoft, they can defend critical infrastructure like Palantir can. No one can. There's a reason why they have the national contract for the nuclear, arsenal, and not Microsoft or Amazon, because they're constantly getting breached. Part of it is because they're bigger, they have more info, they have more valuable information. If you believe that, I think Palantir has more valuable info, in my honest opinion. But if that's what the adversaries are going after, that's what they're going after. So it's really a big deal. But the AR VR, it's only going to get bigger and better, and it's going to improve each day. And that's really the main thing with all of Palantir systems. And that's really one of the main things a lot of people overlook, like Dick Stupid, is he's talking about they have no use for Palantir in the government and the warfighting context. Well, if you just, I'll refrain my bad word, is if he just read the Bloomberg article and you saw how valuable it is, there you go. That's AI right there. And granted, they need to improve Maven, but if you read the article, which I'm sure you have, they went from getting 30 targets in an hour to 85 or 80. It was like, I think it was 80. So they're nearly doubling the amount of targets. And every day the system gets better and smarter and quicker. And 80 will turn to 100. 100 will turn to 110. 110 will turn to 200. Then eventually our enemy will not want to do anything. But that's where we're heading. The CPI-2, ginormous. It's basically a quote-unquote agile mobile version of a command post. It's not sensor like Titan, but picture people all over the battlefield in that striker, giving all that information out. Lynchpin, we're going to get more information as the days go on, as these exercises go on. It is going to be a 2-year, quote-unquote, phase as it relates to Lynchpin in connection with Titan, because it's very much correlated and assigned with Titan. And what I'll do is afterwards, I'll post more of these pictures again on Twitter, but of the Project Lynchpin PowerPoint. I know, hilarious that they make a PowerPoint and here you come in with Palantir probably saying to themselves, you got to be kidding me. You're making a PowerPoint on fucking Lynchpin. And so it's going to be really interesting. But that's really a big update from the defense side. Obviously, you've seen me talk about dodgeball. That's very much like Titan, but on a more quote unquote non-movable ground station. I think that's going to be with Anduril as well. CPI2 going to be huge. Integrated tactical network, all there. Really a lot of interesting stuff. And then the really other main thing that I want to just talk about as it relates to defense is I believe we got Titan because of our extensive work and relationship with the Army Research Lab. And that is something that has been developing over years, not over months. And now the Air Force has put out a proposal for their own research lab. So I have
that's the 280 million contract we got in September, right? 250 million for 3 years.
So that contract was specifically related to artificial intelligence and machine learning for Joint All-Domain Command and Control. So that was made specifically for JADC2. Okay. It falls under the Army umbrella, of course, and the Air Force is now going to have their own research lab, which I believe will be Palantir as well. The interesting part about it is, and just to sum up about all the jointedness is, you have the Army Research Lab with their big thing, Project Convergence. And Titan, it's there. We see it. It's almost done, if that makes sense. A couple more years. With the Air Force, we're seeing the Advanced Battle Management tool much more in the articles, much more mentioned in media. And granted, it's not a hardware piece like Titan, but we're seeing it being used in real time and also being used by Space Force. So we're starting to see all the overlap now. But the interesting thing is, on the Project Convergence, the Capstone 4 exercise that's going on is, if you remember, I mentioned Trident, Triumph, and Tripoli. One of those groups was there at the exercise last week. But the members of Project Overmatch, which is the Navy's portion of JADC2, they're at this exercise also. So it's all starting to come together. So it's really just, Titan was the real first main step to just get in there. And now that we're seeing it flushed out, the Congress has to get the defense budget allocated and finalized for everything, because that's really ruining a lot of the allotment for these contracts. And more importantly, they are supposed to already start working on their fiscal year 25 budget, and they can't. And as we've spoken about and as we've known, what is the number they are going to spend on artificial intelligence? I can assure you it's not going to be the same as it was this year. Is it going to go from 1.8 to 5 billion? Is it going to go to 1.8 to 2 billion? They said they had the first breakfast, and that fiscal year 25 budget, once that comes out and we see artificial intelligence goes from 1.8 to 5 billion, we are going to have, a massive, happy pants tent, to say the least.
So let's end it off with your thoughts on commercial. Q4 earnings smashed. Stocks run up 60% year to date. Did you expect the stock to do what it did on that earnings? And what do you kind of think is do you think they're sandbagging for Q1?
So they've always guided conservatively and cautious, under, don't promise too much and over deliver, whatever the hell the phrase is. Can't think of it. I do think they are going to do much better than they guided for. The commercial specifically, they said at least growth of 40% of 640 million. I think it's going to be closer to 800. Yeah. I think it's going to be closer to that figure. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's above 800. I mean, with the AIP cons and what we're seeing on social media, and obviously we can't, go base everything off of social media, is we are seeing not necessarily a lot of people sign up and use the product, because we can't, quote unquote, 100% definitively say that based on a Twitter post. Most times we can, because we have so much information between the entire community. We know that, this person's using Palantir. I think they're going to beat their expectations as they normally do. How is the stock going to react? That's something I have no idea. When we last spoke on here, we said maybe they'll finish 2024, $25 to $30 range.
Yeah. Literally, I was like $22, $23. We were both kind of like, maybe we'll get there, because it felt like it was so far away.
I was at $16, and $16, honestly, I think that was 2 weeks ago. And would I be happy to go back to 16? Maybe, depending on my mood and the reason why. But I would say most of us would not. And if we do go down, like we went down on Friday, we were going above 27, we were approaching 28 again, and then we obviously dumped for whatever reason. And it is what it is. But I don't think, can we go back to sub 20? Of course, there's 1,000 things that can happen in the world, but I think it's safe to say, we might be above our $25, $30 little prediction, which I'll be very happy about. But we'll see. If the stock keeps, roaring for the next couple weeks, and then they go into earnings and they kill it, maybe it sells off with a little bit of profit taking. You do see it all over. The company valuation is high, and it is. I'll be the first. I don't talk about.
Why do you think the company valuation is high? Why do you think 60 billion is overstretched? If Nvidia is at 2 trillion, what's the difference?
I mean, let me break it down to you this way. I'm not a big of, let me focus on the stock price. As you could tell, I rarely ever post about it, because for me and you as well, to a degree, we don't care what the price is today. We do when we want to buy it, not when we want to see it go up. Right. So, it's such a long hold for us, and we're true investors in this, not a trader. So I feel it's so different than NVIDIA also because NVIDIA, it's been around in the public markets longer. The analysts kind of understand it a little bit better. They don't really understand Palantir for whatever reason still. Titan will help a little bit because it's a tangible physical thing that they can see, because they can't grasp what they really do. So I think as it comes down to valuation, the stock market and crypto, as it relates to my next sentences, it is worth whatever anybody is willing to pay you that day. If you hold Blockbuster stock today and it's 10 cents and somebody knocks on your door and says, Amit, I'll give you $100 for your Blockbuster shares, guess what you're doing? You're selling your Blockbuster shares for $100. Do you think it's worth $100? Absolutely not. But you don't care, because that's what anyone is willing to pay. So when they all come out with their DCF and their 10-year models and they think, the P is high, maybe they are right from a quote unquote fundamental technical analysis on a day-to-day March 8th, 2024 at 11:35 in the morning. It's too high of a premium to pay. You can make that argument to me, and I can understand that argument. You can make the flip side. It's not valued high enough. There is so much more room to growth. It deserves this premium, and you'll see in the coming years, it will grow into it. And maybe like what happening to Apple is, yes, they are the biggest, baddest. They have all the cash on the planet, but they're having a little bit of trouble in terms of the stock. It's in a little bit of a free fall. Is anybody worried about Apple? No. Is anybody concerned that they're going to delist? Absolutely not. But the stock is, having a little bit of an issue. Same thing with Tesla right now to a degree. It's not in a good uptrend.
Well, would you willingly buy it at 27 without, or do you feel a little hesitation? No, why? So that's my question. Why?
Well, for everybody out there that thinks I'm a giant moron, you're correct. I am a giant moron. However, I am smart enough to admit it, and I know my strengths and my weaknesses. And when I first started investing in Palantir, it was during the meme craze first listed. And I said to myself, I bought, my highest buy was $26. And I've never publicly disclosed that because it's truthfully no one's business. I said to myself on that buy, never buy this thing again above 26 unless it really, really deserves that number. And I have never bought above 26. When the stock was going down on Friday, I'll be honest, it's kind of a blessing and a curse that I'm in my extreme busy season at work because I can't look at it. So I'm getting a lot of pings in the Discord and Twitter, and usually I'm a little bit more active, but this week I'm a little quiet. It's because I'm drowning in emails. Like I'm doing work after this to catch up. And I come in just to check it because I saw it was going down, down, down. And it was sub 25, or it's 25 right now, whatever it is. And I thought, I'm like, okay, it went all the way up to 27.50. It's back at 25. You know, maybe a nibble here wouldn't be bad. But I didn't pull the trigger. And for me, at least the way how I operate, and again, everybody's in a different financial situation. What might be a lot for you might not be a lot for me. What might be a little for you might be a lot for me. You know, I look at it as, hey, the stock's going great. I have a nice position. Do I want more? Of course. I need to learn and do a little bit more research on, you know, how to take advantage of the options market to get more shares and more value. I'm not ready to do and dabble with all those because I don't want to lose all my money. And that's okay. And that's fine. And that's what a traditional investor is. I think Warren Buffett has done pretty well. Same thing with Bill Ackman. They know what they're doing. They set it and forget it. So I would love to add more. It's getting to the point, at least for my own personal position, where it needs to be the right price. If it went down 5%, any -5, -10%, I'm probably going to nibble a little bit. But what next Q, and if they deliver a blowout quarter and they go into earnings at, let's just say they're $28 going into earnings, and they absolutely smash it, and then at that point it's $33. Their PE could still be ginormous and massive, and you'll hear all the bears talk about it and blah, 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 blah. That's fine. You could talk about that. For me personally, I don't know if that is worth buying at that point, because we know at any given moment, as quickly as it goes up, it can go down.
Yeah.
So do I think it's going to go sub 20 ever again? I don't think so. I'd like to think 20 is now a really nice support base, especially after Titan, after the full 23 with the guidance. Now, when we get some news next week with whatever, and then earnings, maybe 25 becomes, really nice support for us. So everybody's a little bit different. So for me, I'm not at this level.
You have a big position. You have a good average. So for you, you don't want to average up, essentially. That's basically what you're saying, which I think a lot of people feel.
I averaged, the past 8 months. If anybody's been in the Discord long enough, and you've been around long enough, obviously, in the community as a whole, I've been on record saying for literally the past 2 years, because we got so caught up buying in the high teens and 20s when it first got listed.
Yeah.
It was very difficult for us to average down as retail, because we're not rolling in the dough of millions of dollars and, yeah, okay, I can buy 50 grand today and I'll buy. We don't have that kind of money at least not me. I don't have that money at my disposal. So I'm out there grinding at work and getting paid, putting money away, and okay, I'll take a chunk out and I'll wait and I'll nibble here and there. My whole goal, which unfortunately is not going to happen, was at the end of 2022, 2023, was if you were in since the beginning, like us, and you were buying consistently, was if you had a chance to get a sub $10 average, you're a fucking legend.
Yep.
Like everyone should bow down to you. And I was buying as much as I could in the 6s and 7s and 8s. And of course, would I have loved to have buy more? Yes, of course. Did I get enough? No, of not. So then I started buying in 12s, 13s, and 14s. And my big thing was always, the reason why I'm talking about it was, if for people like us, if you can have a sub $15 average, I think that's very, very good. And even if you're at $16 or $18, as long as you're below 20, and depending on what your end goal is, and you have enough position for yourself, is once that hits that price target of your desire, you will be happy. Yes, you'll be a little sad. I should have bought more. That's every stock winner that you always get. You're always going to be like, I should have bought more.
But Adam, also, if the stock's worth 250, if you have a $15 average or a $26 average, it really is not that big of a deal, right? If it actually gets to where it could get to.
If you want a nickel and dime, yes, it does have a difference. But I agree with you. When you look at it from a market cap perspective and not the stock price perspective, that's really when you really should be looking at the buy. Because if you're looking at it at 26 and it's $60 billion market cap or whatever, if that doubles, it needs to go all the way up to 120 billion, which is a lot harder to do than, say, when you were buying it at 6 when it was 15 billion. Right. So it was like a real, even then it was quote unquote expensive to some people. For us, it was a no fucking brainer because we knew what was coming and we knew what was coming down the line. So everything is really a matter of perspective when it comes to investing. What might be a little for me, what might be a little for me, might be a lot for you. And if you, and I think I tweeted it, I might have just put it in the Discord, but when NVIDIA was absolutely pumping, and this was like when it was just crossing over 500, now it hit 900. I said, I put in the Discord, I go, because somebody bought NVIDIA many moons ago, they posted on Wall Street Bets or whatever, they had like a $15, $16 average, and now the account was worth like $1 or $2 million. And my point is, this is why you hold, because you can take your 10% gain and you can lock it in, and then you can pay your 40% capital gains tax to Uncle Sam and he'll be very happy. And then you can put it in somewhere else and probably lose it or spend it, whatever you might want to do, or you can hold it and you can wait and you will make a ton of money. And this might sound a little crazy, but it's really not. But what happens at the end of the decade when they smash their own forecast? And let's just say they go from doing $2 billion a year to doing $12 to $15 billion a year. Just use those numbers. Do they use that $1 billion buyback? And if they use that $1 billion buyback, because of how much free cash flow they generate a year, and and it goes up every year. This year they're guiding for 800 to $1 billion. I bet it will be closer to $1 billion. Eventually, they'll have so much cash on deck. Maybe they will spend that buyback and chunk of the float out. But forget that for a second. That might not happen for years. What happens when they're firing on all cylinders and they announce a stock split? Because it's not entirely out of the equation. And I say that because, yes, they have a very big float. What is it, 2.1, 2.2 billion or whatever? They have a big float. I'm not arguing that. But the volume is going up every day, especially now with Titan. So it's one of the most traded stocks. And two, the institutional ownership is at mid-40s right now?
41, yeah.
It needs to the 60s. And we're going to see that happen in the next, call it 8, 10, 12 months. And as it approaches that 60%, the float's going to go down. The price is going to rise. And depending on what's going on in the company, the world, macroeconomics, their balance sheet, which is a complete beast, it's not out of the equation. They say, give them a stock split. And
that's my thing. Like the people, NVIDIA at 500, if you had a $17 average or a $29 average, which is a big difference between 17 and 29. If the stock's at 500, even if the stock was at 250, it doesn't matter. I think that's Palantir in the next 10 years. If we are anywhere near a Salesforce Oracle type of market cap, which is not unrealistic to get to 300, 350 billion, stock's going to be closer to 250, 275. I mean, if you had a $35 average, no one would care, right? They would be like, that's amazing. So it's really just a question of, do we have an opportunity over the next 18 to 24 months to stack up as much as possible and then, let it ride off into the sunset if that actually plays out?
Anything can happen. So, I mean, of course we can. And like I said, on December, Titan can happen between January and March, any random day. And it did. Any big contract can come any given day with Palantir. So I said it before last time I was on here, and I'll say it again. What happens if SOCOM gives them $1 billion contract? I'm pretty confident the stock's going to react positively.
Yeah, if Street was excited over 178 million. By the way, what do you think about Louis De Palma trying to say that it wasn't a significant contract? Because it's like they had inside information, because of course these Wall Street firms have inside information that we got the deal, and then they published the research note saying, by the way, this deal is not that important, it's going to be announced soon. And then they announced it in the streets like, actually, we fucking love this deal, it's very important.
So there's analyst, and then there's lying analyst. And the analyst that covers Palantir is Mariana. And then, Ives covers, Palantir, obviously, but Mariano did it before him. So I'm going to give Mariana the OG status, if that's okay. No disrespect to Dan Ives for that. Mariana was on it first. All of these analysts and Rishi, my God, they're either completely told, just lie through their teeth to get retail scared to sell for whatever reason, or hope the market reacts and they sell off to get in cheaper, or they truthfully don't know. And if it's the first one, that's bad. If it's the second one, that's even worse. So why are you doing stuff that you don't know? Anybody can take, especially in today's day and age, with the right amount of patience, you can go to Google, you can go to ChatGPT, now you can go to Hobbits AI, and you can find out information about this company that is factual and legitimate. And you don't need to lie through your teeth. Are you going to know everything about it in 10 minutes? Absolutely not. If that's what you're doing to spend your time to write an article on it, you don't deserve to write that article, because you need a lot more than 10 minutes. And no, you don't need to spend hours on end like me and you, but you need to give it its proper time. So with Louis, it's either one of those, they're lying through their teeth to get cheaper shares, which wouldn't surprise me, or they just don't know, which is even worse. I mean, he's wrong about Titan not being important. Obviously,
he was wrong about Army Vantage. Blatantly wrong. I mean,
yes, completely wrong. He's myself and the fellowship, when it comes to government and defense, we tend to be right. So, when I would follow myself as an analyst, if you want to call me that, for the defense, the main thing is with all these people, like with Vomit Chart Traders and Tomer Cuck and everybody, they are in it for clicks. They're in it for money, and that's fine. They don't spend the time on the company like you and I do, nor do they spend the time not necessarily doing our own research, but having actual conversations with other people to discuss the company and what's going on. My big thing about the Discord is, and I don't charge any money. There's no reason for me. I don't offer anything special. I don't.
You actually just love researching Palantir, which is the fun part of this.
Well, that kind of just spiraled out of control over the past few years. But my main reason for starting it was I didn't know everything about this. I wanted to have the place to speak to people like you and everybody else and have actual conversation to learn about the company and see, what am I not seeing that you might be seeing? It might be something bearish. It might be something positive. It might be something completely I've never seen before. And that's really the main thing for it. And with these guys, It's block. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. It's I just want to get my message out there, get my money from my boss, which is in this case, ad revenue for bullshit, and then get clicks, which is only hurting themselves in the long run and their own followers. Because in 5-10 years, when they see you because you post the screenshot, when that fucking thing, when you post 100.00 screenshot, they're going to be, you're an asshole. Why did you tell me to sell this thing? It's coming. So that's why you have to be very careful with who you follow for Palantir. It's the community right now that I'm seeing. It's great. It's the best stock community in the world. I will stand by that. Fuck you, Tesla bros. But there's a lot of newbies coming in because the stock is really, and you just got to be careful with who you follow because there's a lot of bad information out there.
Well, I think what happens is when a stock goes up, everyone obviously says, okay, I can attach myself to the stock and I can start a YouTube channel. I can get attention. I can start a Discord. I can start a Patreon, all this stuff. The funny thing about the people that have actually been here for a while, like me, you, Arnie, is when the stock was $6, we kept producing content and there were no clicks. There were no views. Like, yeah, there was a couple thousand people maybe every week that would click on your stupid video. 50% of them would comment, but why is the stock $7? Why are you spending your time obsessed about it? But for us, the love of the Trafigura contract that came out in May 2022, where they're using supply chains to look at raw materials to enlist those carbon emissions. I was like, this is fucking like really amazing shit. But there's only one person talking about it. And so I guess, me, Arnie, and Adam will talk about it. I think those are the things that matter in the community in regards to looking at people who actually care. Because if not, you're going to end up with people that when it goes to 25, they start their Patreon and what do they have to sell you? Versus, do you actually love the company? And I think all three of us, and there's so many others in the community, we actually fucking love this company.
I have nothing to sell. Trust me. I work in sales. If I did, I would be pulling my crazy genius sales skills on all of you. But there's nothing to sell. We just love Palantir. More importantly, at least for myself, and definitely you, there's a patriotism feel to it as well. It's like, and I know I posted proud Palantard. It's not a derogatory term. It's something that I feel proud to be financing and being a part of and watching the company grow. And it truly, their mission is set out to build a better world. Yeah. And it's good to be a part of a company and a story like that. And some people, they just want to get on the train for a financial gain. That's fine. I get it. You're entitled to make money. You have bills to pay. You have mortgage. You might have kids, mouths to feed. But when you step to the fellowship and the community and you say some dumb stuff, you're going to get attacked.
Yeah, no, I agree, dude. I think, and it's so important because over time, people will try to say random stuff to get clicks and views, and it's just important to like when the stock was at $6-8, I started asking myself, why am I still making YouTube? It's not like YouTube was fucking paying. You get paid maybe $10 off a video that gets 80, 40 views. So I was like, so why am I still making these videos? And I was like, fractional. I actually like covering. What do you say?
So it's a fractional share now.
It's a fractional share. It's bad. Like YouTube ad revenue is not something that people think, unless you're doing like Meet Kevin numbers where he's, like millions of views, you're not getting paid. So when it was $6-8, why am I making videos? Why are you posting these updates on Discord? Why is Arnie making it? It's because we actually think there's potential here and we enjoy it. Like Palantir gives you a story every fucking day to discuss. How many things happened this week that we didn't even get to fully cover because there's just so much stuff, and that's what makes it exciting. But that's what also welcomes random people into the community.
It most certainly does, and I hope with those new people that will be joining us in the journey ahead, they will see this video and they will understand. Stay with Amit, myself, Arnie. Either, obviously, there's a lot of great,
so many good people.
There's a lot of good ones, and I think we can end it off on this, just as it relates to the community. Obviously, it had to do with confidence. It had to do with the company being in a good place. But now we're seeing the employees really, really engage with the community, and I will say I'm very appreciative of that. Obviously, I'm not going to bother them and ask them to, define to me exactly how the ontology and the APIs, because I'm never going to understand it. But the fact that they're in there and that they're part of our community now, like they enjoy when, like Chad, perfect example. He like loves when and shout out Bear Graham, hope you're doing well. Like when I post the Alexander Carpus Maximus, are you entertained? Like he's like, I love that video. Like he's like, when I have a bad day, like I go into that video. It's like we are like building something special that is not just retail investors, but now it's really involved, the boots on the ground. And we're seeing it come in full time. And it's really, really nice. And I think that's also why it's such a strong community and growing, is because we're able to interact and get legitimate, truthful answers that are going to make a difference in not only the Palantir, but their partner, but also in our life, either through the investment or just understanding like, wow, this is really what they're doing, is how I get my, bowl of cereal from General Mills.
Right. It's exciting, man. It's super exciting to be on this community. Thankful for you to come on. It's just speaking of the community, like on Tuesday when the Titan contract breaks and I'm on my morning show and there's thousands of people that want to get info on the Titan contract. I didn't have access to you, but I had access to our podcast, and there was a good 5-minute segment where you're explaining why we're probably getting that Titan contract. And on that segment, you were like, I asked, hey, do you think we're going to get it? And you were like 100% yes. And it's just so nice to have moments like that, and then it actually happens. And it just speaks to the testament of this community, because I don't think Palantir, quite frankly, would be where it is. I'll go so far as to say I don't think the stock would be where it is if this community wasn't here. And Karp admitted it on that Bloomberg interview, saying that there were people that had our backs when we were down in the dumps, and now we're here.
We are here. I can speak for myself. I'll be here for a long time. So not going anywhere. We're just getting started. The community is going to grow. Just please be careful of where you get your information from. Wall Street, they're not your friends. Retail has been ahead of everybody as it relates to Palantir. You're not going to find better info Palantir unless you're following retail, such as myself, Arnie, Ether. Grim posts a shit ton. Cam does a great job of posting stock information, of course. Deep Value doing a ton of defense stuff with me as well, because it's just too much for me to even manage. I need Foundry for my research.
I love it. All right, everybody, please make sure to follow Adam. Twitter is in the description and in the chat, and we'll be here probably in like a month or two to break down some more stuff going on in the world of Palantir.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you for having me, and again, congrats on the product launch.
All right, everybody. Good night. Have a good one. Bye-bye.